You thought it was just a receipt, a few numbers, a date, a signature at the bottom, something people throw away without a second glance, but somewhere, someone studied every line of it, every purchase, every decision, every moment you believed nobody was paying attention. While you were busy living your life, records were being created, patterns were forming, habits were exposing themselves. The truth is, people don't always need to hear your words to understand you. Sometimes the evidence is already sitting quietly in plain sight. A receipt can reveal discipline or recklessness, patience or desperation, control or impulse. And when every choice leaves a trail, the question isn't whether your actions can be reviewed. The question is what story those actions are telling about you when you're not in the room to explain them. Most people believe their biggest decisions define them. They think life changes because of one dramatic moment, one bold move, one grand announcement that everyone notices. That's the illusion. The reality is much quieter, much stranger. Life is rarely shaped by the decisions that make headlines. It is shaped by the tiny choices that nobody pays attention to. The choices made when nobody is watching. The choices made when there is no audience, no applause, no criticism, and no immediate consequence. Every choice leaves evidence, whether people want to admit it or not. Not just evidence on paper, not just records stored in files, but evidence etched into behavior, character, and destiny. A person may lie about who they are, but their decisions leave fingerprints everywhere they go. A single choice may seem meaningless. Sleeping a little longer instead of getting up, spending money on distractions instead of investments, avoiding a difficult conversation, ignoring an opportunity, breaking a promise to yourself because nobody else knows about it. Each action looks harmless when viewed alone. That's why people repeat them. That's why they convince themselves that nothing important happened. But evidence does not need to be dramatic to be powerful. One drop of water means nothing. Thousands of drops can carve through stone. One small choice becomes a habit becomes a pattern becomes a reputation becomes a future. People spend enormous amounts of energy managing appearances. They want others to see confidence, success, intelligence, and control. They carefully construct an image and hope the world accepts it. Yet evidence has a way of exposing the truth behind the performance. Someone may claim they are disciplined, but their choices reveal constant procrastination. Someone may claim they value growth, but their choices show endless comfort-seeking. Someone may speak about ambition all day long, but their actions quietly confess a different story. Words are witnesses that can be coached. Choices are witnesses that rarely lie. The strange thing is that evidence accumulates whether you notice it or not. Every day becomes a file. Every action becomes a document. Every decision becomes another page added to a growing record. Most people imagine that transformation arrives like lightning, a sudden explosion that changes everything overnight. What they fail to understand is that success and failure both leave clues long before they arrive. The future often announces itself in whispers. A person who repeatedly chooses discipline leaves evidence of future achievement. A person who repeatedly chooses excuses leaves evidence of future disappointment. Long before results become visible, the evidence is already there. Human beings are masters of self-deception. They create stories to protect themselves from uncomfortable truths. They explain away mistakes. They justify poor decisions. They invent reasons why today's choice does not matter. They treat small actions as isolated events instead of pieces of a larger pattern. But reality keeps its own records. It watches quietly. It does not argue. It does not negotiate. It simply collects evidence. The person who skips one workout believes it means nothing. The person who wastes 1 hour believes it means nothing. The person who avoids one responsibility believes it means nothing. Then years pass and they stand in front of a life, built from thousands of moments they dismissed as insignificant. The most dangerous choices are often the ones that feel invisible. They arrive disguised as convenience, comfort, pleasure, or delay. They whisper instead of shouting. They ask for very little in the beginning. Just one exception, just one shortcut, just one compromise, just one excuse. The cost appears tiny, almost impossible to notice. Yet evidence grows quietly in the background. Every compromise leaves a mark. Every act of courage leaves a mark. Every act of sacrifice leaves a mark. Every act of discipline leaves a mark. Piece by piece, choice by choice, a hidden record is being written, revealing exactly who a person is becoming. People are fascinated by masks. They spend years creating versions of themselves that look impressive from a distance. A smile can hide frustration. Confidence can hide insecurity. Success can hide chaos. The world becomes a stage where everyone performs a role, hoping nobody notices what exists beneath the costume. But patterns have a cruel habit of exposing reality. A single action can be explained away. A single mistake can be forgiven. A single success can be celebrated. Patterns are different. Patterns do not care about excuses. They do not care about intentions. They reveal the truth that repeated behavior cannot hide. Most people judge themselves by what they plan to do. They look at their dreams, goals, and ambitions and assume those things define them. They believe their identity is hidden somewhere inside their thoughts. Reality is far less generous. The real version of a person is usually found in what they repeatedly do, not what they repeatedly imagine. Someone may talk endlessly about becoming successful, but if their days are filled with distraction, delay, and avoidance, a pattern begins to emerge. Someone may claim loyalty, but repeated betrayal tells a different story. Someone may speak about discipline, but their actions leave evidence of inconsistency. The pattern becomes louder than the promise. That is what makes patterns so unsettling. They remove the comfort of isolated moments. People love isolated moments because they can control the narrative. One act of kindness can be displayed proudly. One achievement can be shared with the world. One mistake can be blamed on bad luck. But patterns force a larger conversation. They connect the dots. They gather scattered choices and arrange them into a picture that becomes difficult to ignore. The picture often reveals things people desperately wish to hide. Imagine walking into a room filled with mirrors. Not ordinary mirrors that reflect your appearance, but mirrors that reflect every decision you have made for years. Every habit, every excuse, every sacrifice, every commitment, every broken promise. Suddenly the image becomes impossible to manipulate. The reflection begins speaking a language made entirely of patterns. It shows where your time goes. It shows what truly matters to you. It shows what you value when nobody is watching. It shows whether your actions and your words belong to the same person. The frightening part is that patterns develop quietly. Nobody wakes up one morning and decides to create a life of regret. Nobody plans to become weak, distracted, unreliable, or lost. These outcomes are usually the result of repeated choices so small they barely seem important at the time. One shortcut becomes another, one excuse becomes a habit, one delay becomes a lifestyle. The pattern grows stronger with every repetition until it begins shaping reality itself. What once felt like a choice starts feeling like destiny. Parts also reveal strength in ways people often overlook. Courage is not a single heroic act. It is a pattern of facing discomfort repeatedly. Discipline is not one productive day. It is a pattern of consistent effort. Integrity is not one honest conversation. It is a pattern of choosing truth when deception would be easier. Greatness is rarely hidden inside dramatic moments. More often, it is buried inside ordinary actions repeated over long periods of time. Patterns transform simple behaviors into powerful forces. People often search for secrets that will change their lives. They look for shortcuts, formulas, and hidden advantages. They study successful individuals hoping to discover one magical answer. Yet the evidence usually points somewhere much simpler. Success leaves patterns. Failure leaves patterns. Growth leaves patterns. Decline leaves patterns. The clues are everywhere for those willing to look honestly. Every repeated action becomes a vote cast for the person you are becoming. Every repeated behavior strengthens an identity, whether it serves you or destroys you. The world may be fooled by appearances for a while. Friends may believe the stories. Strangers may accept the performance. Social media may reward the illusion. But patterns continue collecting evidence in silence. Day after day, choice after choice. They build a case that becomes harder to challenge. They expose priorities hidden beneath words. They uncover motives buried beneath excuses. They reveal character beneath reputation. They shine a light into places where masks begin to crack, and carefully constructed images begin to collapse. People are obsessed with big moments. They celebrate massive victories, dramatic transformations, and life-changing opportunities. They imagine success arriving with fireworks, attention, and applause. They believe reputation is built through grand achievements that everyone can see. What they fail to notice is that reputation is usually constructed in the shadows, through small decisions that seem too insignificant to matter. The world may remember the final result, but the result itself is often nothing more than a collection of tiny choices stacked on top of one another. Small decisions build your reputation long before anyone notices the structure taking shape. A person is not remembered for what they intended to do. They are remembered for what they consistently chose to do. One decision to be punctual may seem meaningless. One decision to keep a promise may appear ordinary. One decision to stay disciplined when nobody is watching may feel invisible. Yet these actions leave traces. They create impressions. They send signals to the world. People begin collecting these signals without even realizing it. Trust starts forming. Respect starts growing. Doubt starts appearing. Confidence starts increasing. Reputation is not built in a single day. It is built one decision at a time. The strange thing about reputation is that it begins long before anyone talks about it. Every interaction becomes a piece of evidence. Every response to pressure becomes a clue. Every reaction to difficulty becomes part of a larger story. People think others are judging them based on isolated events, but most judgments come from patterns created by small decisions. Someone who repeatedly arrives late develops a reputation for unreliability. Someone who repeatedly follows through on commitments develops a reputation for trustworthiness. The individual actions may appear tiny, but together they create an identity that becomes difficult to escape. Most people underestimate the power of repetition. They assume one careless decision cannot damage anything important. They believe one excuse, one delay, one broken commitment, or one moment of laziness is harmless. In isolation, they may be right. The problem is that small decisions rarely stay isolated. They have a habit of multiplying. One excuse makes the next excuse easier. One compromise lowers the standard for future compromises. One act of carelessness creates permission for another. Before long, a pattern emerges, and that pattern begins shaping how others perceive you and how you perceive yourself. The world does not always see your intentions. It sees your actions. It does not always know your dreams. It knows your behavior. A person may secretly desire excellence, but if their choices consistently reflect mediocrity, their reputation will follow the evidence rather than the desire. Reality has very little interest in private explanations. It responds to visible patterns. Every small decision becomes a vote cast toward the identity you are creating. The votes accumulate whether you acknowledge them or not. Imagine two people standing at the same starting line. Neither possesses extraordinary talent. Neither has a significant advantage. One chooses to improve slightly every day. The other chooses comfort whenever discomfort appears. The difference seems microscopic at first. Weeks pass and nothing dramatic happens. Months pass and the gap remains difficult to notice. Years pass and their lives appear completely different. One has built a reputation for discipline, reliability, and growth. The other has built a reputation for inconsistency and unrealized potential. The separation did not occur because of one massive event. It was created through thousands of small decisions, quietly shaping perception and reality. What makes small decisions dangerous is their ability to disguise themselves. They rarely announce their consequences. They arrive looking harmless. Skip the preparation today. Ignore the responsibility tomorrow. Break the promise next week. Delay the difficult task again. Each choice feels insignificant because the damage is not immediate. Yet reputation is being constructed beneath the surface. Brick by brick, action by action, a structure is rising. Every decision adds something to it. Some choices strengthen the foundation. Others create cracks that remain hidden until pressure arrives. Pressure has a way of revealing the reputation built by small decisions. When opportunities appear, people often discover that trust has already been earned or lost. When challenges arrive, they learn that credibility has already been established or weakened. The judgment they face in those moments is rarely based on one event. It is based on a long record of choices accumulated over time. Every overlooked action, every private habit, every silent commitment, every unnoticed sacrifice contributes another piece to the image the world eventually sees. Another layer to the reputation that follows a person wherever they go. Another reminder that the smallest decisions often leave the deepest marks. Most people believe they are judged by what they say. They spend years perfecting explanations, crafting excuses, and building stories that make them appear stronger, wiser, or more successful than they really are. They think the right words can control perception. They believe confidence can replace competence and promises can replace proof. But life has a strange sense of humor. Long before a person opens their mouth, something else has already taken the witness stand. Their habits, their routines, their repeated choices, their daily actions. Your habits testify before you speak. The frightening part is that habits never take a day off. They do not care about motivation. They do not care about emotions. They do not care about the image you want to present. They quietly collect evidence every single day. While people are busy making declarations about who they are becoming, habits are revealing who they already are. A person may claim to value discipline, but their habits tell another story. A person may speak endlessly about ambition, but their routine exposes their priorities. A person may promise change, but their repeated behavior presents the truth without saying a single word. Imagine walking into a courtroom where your future is being decided. Nobody is interested in your intentions. Nobody asks about your dreams. Nobody wants to hear the speeches you practiced in front of the mirror. Instead, a stack of evidence is placed on the table. Every morning you chose comfort over growth. Every time you avoided responsibility. Every time you delayed action, every time you broke a promise to yourself, every time you chose consistency and discipline, every time you kept going when quitting would have been easier. One by one, your habits begin speaking. They tell a story that words cannot rewrite. That is what makes habits so powerful. They operate beneath awareness. Most people notice major decisions because they feel dramatic. Habits feel ordinary, repetitive, boring, harmless. Yet habits are often responsible for the greatest victories and the greatest failures. A person does not suddenly become successful. Success is usually the visible result of habits repeated for years. A person does not suddenly lose direction. That decline is often built through small routines repeated until they become automatic. The outcome shocks people because they were watching the destination instead of the road leading toward it. Human beings are experts at creating temporary performances. For a few hours, almost anyone can appear disciplined. For a few days, almost anyone can appear motivated. For a few weeks, almost anyone can pretend to be committed. Habits are different. Habits expose what happens after excitement disappears. They reveal behavior when nobody is watching. They reveal choices when there is no reward waiting at the finish line. They reveal character when appearance no longer matters. The world often mistakes talent for the reason behind achievement. People look at successful individuals and assume they possess something special that others lack. They search for secret advantages, hidden opportunities, or extraordinary gifts. What they often ignore is the testimony of habits. Behind every visible result stands an invisible pattern: hours of preparation, repeated effort, consistent learning, daily discipline. The public sees the performance. Habits witness the practice. The public sees the achievement. Habits witness the sacrifice. The same principle works in reverse. Failure rarely appears without warning. It leaves clues everywhere. Habits quietly document every neglected responsibility, every postponed opportunity, every repeated excuse. People are often surprised when consequences arrive, but consequences are usually responding to evidence collected over time. The record has been growing for months or years. The testimony was available long before the verdict appeared. What makes habits even more dangerous is their ability to shape identity. Repeated actions begin influencing how a person sees themselves. Someone who consistently follows through on commitments starts viewing themselves as reliable. Someone who repeatedly quits begins expecting failure. The habit becomes more than behavior. It becomes belief. It becomes part of the story a person tells themselves every day. Over time, that story grows stronger than motivation, stronger than intention, stronger than temporary emotion. Everyday habits continue their silent testimony. They record what matters to you. They reveal where your energy goes. They expose whether your actions support your goals or sabotage them. They do not shout. They do not demand attention. They simply present evidence, choice after choice, day after day, building a case that becomes impossible to ignore. Revealing truths that speeches cannot hide, exposing realities that excuses cannot erase, speaking with a consistency that no performance can imitate.